So, after being hurt and going through breakups and going through toxic relationships, going through that phase of on again, off again, coming to realization of dealing with the narcissist and dealing with this person that wasn't good for your mental health, and you taking accountability, because a part of that is saying, you know what, I played a role too. I take ownership of my position in this situation, whatever it may be. You can get on social media and that can add fuel to the fire. It can get you thinking that, okay, I'm justified in just cutting off, this person and cutting off anybody I come in contact. The first thing that I see that they do that I don't like, and this can be a slippery slope, because sometimes God sends us people in our lives to assist us and to be a mirror to us for us to grow. And so I had to address that within myself and say, you know what? It's not about cutting people off all the time. Some situations don't require you to cut somebody off. Sometimes it requires you to cut back, to take a moment for yourself and give that connection some space. Sometimes relationships require you to communicate better, to humble yourself, or to, put your pride to the side and simply have a healthy conversation. But it really just depends on the circumstances. And the realization that I came into is that, even though we're humans having a human experience, we're spirits having a human experience, whatever the case may be, this isn't real, it's real right now, and when you have someone that's in your family, a parent, a sibling, or, somebody that's close to you, and you're at odds with that person, at the end of the day, nobody wants to go to somebody's funeral. Nobody wants to have to bury someone with harboring certain emotions, and I'm not saying like every situation is the same. Some people will be at peace. Sometimes in certain situations, burying someone actually brings a peace of mind, because they have a relief from whatever toxicity it was that they experienced. But in some cases, there are times where you realize, okay, damn, I could have did this better. Damn, was it really worth us not talking at all? Was that cutoff necessary? Was it possible for us to come to a healthy understanding? And once that person is no longer here, you don't have that opportunity to do that anymore. You have to tap in with the spirit. You have to connect on the other side. You have to get a medium, if you're not able to do that, whatever the case may be. But it's still not going to be the same as that person being right here in the physical with you, and you being able to do that right now. And so that's just the epiphany that I came into the other day. Not everything requires someone to be cut off, and I feel like that in that case, you really have to write down what your boundaries are, write down what your limits are, write down what your red flags are, honor those, and then do what it is that fits the scenario that's healthiest if you don't want to cut that person off. And so that may look like minimizing time with that person. That may look like minimizing conversations, but you can still have a relationship with that person to a certain extent, where at least, there's no guilty conscience. There's no regrets. There's no doubt in your mind that you did everything possible to try to make the relationship work, if in case, that's necessary. So I just wanted to share that, because, we live in a world now where cutoff is like the first and top priority of this culture now. Cutoff culture is serious, and it didn't always used to be that way. We used to be able to talk things out with one another. And if there was an issue, you would fight with that person, you would throw hands. Now people are quick to go to guns. Now people are quick to use weapons to solve their problems, and things are just different. Instead of creating healthy solutions, like having healthy conversation, sometimes it goes to the extreme. Either you don't talk at all, you just cut that person off altogether, or you go shoot that person. Like it's like it has to be like a healthy balance, is what I'm saying. I think that it's so necessary to be able to be honest with ourselves and evaluate a situation and say, what was my role? What can I do better? If I can, am I willing to work on that? And if this relationship truly works out with you, is it necessary to cut this person off altogether, or am I just convinced of that because that's what social media says, or because that's the thing, to do? When sometimes it's just life is just challenging you. The situation is just challenging you to grow. And so I think that that's something also to be considered. All right.